agenda. What's that? Oh, roll call first. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Uh, Committee Member Hunter, Vice Chair Ostavar,
Present.
Committee Member Sanders,
Present.
Committee Member Turgan.
Here.
And our Chair, Polly, Commissioners, Committee Members, Turgenza and Palmer are currently absent. Hopefully we'll have our Chair join us. And staff present today, that would be Planning Manager Levi Hill, Principal Planner Fernanda Roveri, Senior Associate Planner Christopher Schmidt, and Recording Secretary Spencer Arganbright. And I will also announce how. Pardon? He has them. Yeah.
Thank you.
To participate in this meeting, information is online at isearchmonterey.org. Remote commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak, and a timer will be shown on the screen. If you are connected on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. In the chamber, we recommend keeping phones and devices muted to prevent audio interference with the meeting. Thank you for participating in your city government.
Thank you. And we will begin and open with the consent agenda items. Are there any members of the public, commissioner committee that would like to discuss a consent item? Any hands online?
Oh, yeah, there are no attendees with their hands raised online.
Thank you.
I move that we approve the consent agenda, including the approval of the minutes from the last meeting on September 4th, 2024.
Second.
All members in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda and minutes for the last meeting have been approved. Any comments for items not on the agenda? I see one hand raised here. I believe there's a brief period of time, and please, yeah, come up and state your name if you'd like to. And
all right, my name is Brent. I just had a quick comment from your last meeting regarding the approval of 739 Archer. I'm glad you guys approved it. It was a nice project, but one thing I noticed was missing from discussion. The west wall they constructed or are planning on constructing, is it a 6-foot setback for the second story? And the minimum for a second story construction is a 7-foot setback. So they are actually constructing a new wall outside of the setback requirements. I noticed in the video recording that was not discussed, and I just wanted to bring that up, though I think it was a good project, and I think it is good that it was approved as it was. I just want to point out that that wall is not actually in compliance with the setback rules. Thank you.
thank you. I'm sure staff will take note of that and move forward with that item. Thank you. Okay, any other comments, questions, topics from committee members or the public?
There are no attendees online with their hands raised.
Okay, I'll open the first public appearance item. Staff will give a presentation.
Real quick, I need to recuse myself from this one because it's just up the street
Uh-oh.
from me.
Okay.
I mean, I can, you want me, do you need me to make a vote on it or you'd recommended recusal?
If you have a conflict of interest, we really encourage you to recuse yourself.
Well, I think you said I live just outside 500 feet from,
And it's your residence, you're not renting.
oh, I definitely am renting.
My understanding is that's,
Do you have a
Yeah.
financial
Yeah.
conflict with the proposal? Or,
No.
okay,
I mean, I can attest that I have no specific conflict, but if it's best practices to recuse myself because I live down the street, that's fine, but I'm happy to stay and comment.
So he can
yeah, if you feel like you're more comfortable recusing yourself, that's fine.
We have a forum issue. Okay, maybe just for safety's sake, I will, now that Justin's. All right. Save the day.
yeah, just to clarify, I was under the impression that if you didn't have any financial conflicts, that you did not need to recuse yourself. But this is just in case, I guess, for
It's kind of twofold. So we ask for those who are within certain distances to also recuse, just to avoid sometimes the perception of making a decision because it may impact your living situation or your living environment. So again, just to avoid conflicts of interest and also the perception of conflicts of interest.
All right, thank you. We have quorum now anyway. And I will officially pass the mic to our chair since we haven't gotten started. So this is good timing. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, apologies. I sometimes read these agendas too quickly and saw a 4 o'clock field trip and went up to the site.
Just
it
let
was
the
Monday.
record show that our chair,
Yeah.
Justin Polly, has entered. Thank you.
All right. So we'll call the meeting to order.
Oh, we're at the,
Where we
We
at?
did move through
Yeah.
most of the items, including approving minutes. And so we were just getting ready to have our presentation by Chris.
All right, we'll go into our staff presentation.
Thank you, Chair and Vice Chair. My name is Chris Schmidt. I'm Senior Associate Planner for the City of Monterey. And I've been working with the applicant on this project for quite some time now. So today we're looking at a new home build at 1054 Helm Street. The staff recommendation is that the ARC approve the architectural review permit. Just some background information about the project site. It is zoned R16, which is our single family neighborhood designation, has a general plan designation of low density residential. And it's located in the Old Town neighborhood, near the top of the Old Town neighborhood near the Defense Language Institute. And here you can see the site on the right hand side. And I'll just state this site actually, this is an older photo. Today there's actually no home at this location. And I'll have a couple of photos about that. But here on the bottom is Helm Street. And then there's a steep slope down onto the lot at 1054. So background information. So the applicant initially applied for work at this site in 2018. They applied for an architectural review permit for an addition, a new roof, a substantial rebuild of the roof, and new decks. And it was found in that review that the existing condition at that time, the dwelling was actually a duplex. Both floors had their own separate kitchens, bedrooms, baths, and there was no connection between the two. And it was considered to be a non-conforming duplex in a single family zone. So the city code does allow for a path to do a 10% increase in floor area maximum for a non-conforming building. So the applicant applied for a variance for that, as well as a variance for the garage. And ultimately, this was approved by the ARC. Flash forward to 2021, the building permit was issued. And then during construction, the project was halted in 2022 because the builder had demolished the project beyond the approved scope, and I have some photos showing that. But it constituted a demolition by definition in the city code. So essentially that means the applicant had to start over with a new home. They applied for a variance, which was approved to maintain the building footprint of the original building, and then ultimately reapplied for a new architectural review permit with changes to the floor plan to comply with the zoning requirements for ADUs. So they ultimately would have that kind of same first and second floor separation of the primary dwelling and an ADU. It's very similar to the original structure. And as I mentioned, the project did when the structure was initially demolished, it was considered to be a demolition by definition. I'm not really going to go into much detail, but more than 50% of the structure had been demolished, about 75%. This is why the project had to start fresh. Additional information about the site. So as you can see, this was the original building siting, and it was fairly close at the side property lines. Is what I want to display, and the front property lines. What I want to display here is about 5.5 feet on each side of the building, as well as about 11 feet away from the front property line. Also note that the actual asphalt for Helm Street begins here. So the variance was approved that because this was a very unique circumstance where the lot itself was fairly far setback from the actual drivable, walkable right of way. And so ultimately the variance was approved to allow construction in that same footprint. So here's what the site looks like today. As I mentioned, the contractor was issued a red tag and a stop work order. And the site has been sitting this way for years now. So ultimately the applicant applied for this variance to reuse the existing foundation and retaining wall. So I just wanted to show why the variance was supported is because the site conditions, due to the topography between the, at the top of the site, at the street, all the way down to where the former building existed, the existence of the retaining wall, et cetera. There was a lot of site conditions that made it fairly difficult to build on without fully grading the site. So onto the project. So I'm starting with the site plan here. You can see the proposed structure in its location here. The applicant is doing a small addition relative to the original home, which they've highlighted in gray there, as well as new decking at the rear and on top of the garage. Here's the front elevation. You can see the varying the fenestration from the new dormers. I mean, this is a new structure, but from the dormers, the windows, and then as well as the materials used, the stone veneer at the bottom. Stucco would be used for the remainder of most of the remainder of the building, and then additional wood siding at the top of each dormer. This is the east side elevation. This would be plan right if you were looking at the site plan. And the rear elevation and the west side elevation. And the applicant also included this rendering. They've also provided a landscape plan, which you can see here. Okay, so the ARC has 4 findings to approve an architectural review permit. The first being the proposed siting, form, mass, and architectural style are appropriate for the site, neighborhood, and the city. Staff was able to make this finding. The proposal has single-family character. It appears 1 story from Helm Street. That includes modulation through material changes, dormers, and window openings, as well as decking. The next finding is that the views, privacy, and living environment would not be unreasonably impaired. The view impacts would be limited due to the site conditions and neighboring development. The site is downhill from Helm Street. There really would be very limited privacy or view impacts from the proposal. The third finding is that the project is consistent with city plans and design guidelines. Staff made this finding. It is consistent with the Old Town Area Plan and the general plan because it is single family in character. And then the last finding is that the exterior finish, colors, materials, and all other exterior features are appropriate. Staff made this finding. The proposal includes stucco exterior in gray, stone veneer at the front elevation, vertical siding at dormers. A landscaping plan was provided. Additional details, the windows would be white veneer. The front door is also a large windowed front door. The garage door, it would be in white as well. And then there has been a landscaping plan provided. A lot more detail about the specific plantings are in the staff report. I can certainly go through those if you'd like. So with that, staff recommends approval of the project. I'm available for questions. The property owner and project designer are here as well. Thank you.
Chris, would you like to give a brief summary of the field trip from Monday?
Oh, yes. So we did have a field trip on Monday. Typically, our field trips, we rarely call them, but because of the unique circumstances that apply to this project, Fernanda and I felt that it might be a good idea if any ARC members wanted to attend. We had 1 member in attendance who is actually not here today. And at that meeting, I just explained the project history that I explained today.
You said there were side yard setbacks that were not consistent variances?
That's correct. So if you can see here, the proposal is located on the left-hand side. I think it says 5 feet 4 inches, and then on the right, 5 foot 8 inches. Typically, the minimum setback for a second story is 7 feet.
And it's, if I'm reading the plans correctly, it's not only a second story, but there's also a roof deck on top of the second story.
That's right.
And sorry, that whole program was approved previously.
The variance for setbacks and height and everything, correct, yes.
Is the design with the roof deck and all those programmatic components consistent with what was approved previously?
Correct, yeah. And I also mentioned that the design is, in terms of the exterior appearance, very, very similar to what was originally approved years ago with the original ARP.
Any more questions of staff? Okay, would the applicant like to make a presentation?
The project was well presented. I just want to tell that the new changes which we did, recently, they were because our existing garage was too short. We had to extend it at the back, and we extended it. That gave it that additional square footage we got. And that's why also the rear elevation got changed. So we changed the garage at the back, so moved also wall below it, and added a little bit to accommodate the stair, because the house is actually itself is now it's still ADU at the bottom, and then there's a house going on the upper floor and then a little bit to the downstairs. So we had to put stair over there. But the front elevation didn't change at all. The left elevation didn't change at all, left side. The right side elevation didn't change except maybe 2 windows for the stair. That's it. The back changed a little bit because the ADU and the house, we had to accommodate a door at different location. But whatever is public accessible didn't change at all. So that was the only changes we had. And we tried not to minimize structural work. It was the structural engineer already gave me the drawings. Before we used to have a metal beams. That's why actually contractor demolished the house, because he had to put metal beams between the floors. The house was in such bad condition that he demolished, coordinating it with an engineer. And now with new design, because we're doing as a new construction, engineer actually made it out of wood. So the construction is more user friendly itself. But these are the main changes we have. From the planning point of view, not that much. And then also, of course, landscaping plan we got. Before we tried to save it, now nothing to save. So there will be new landscaping. That's it.
I do have a brief question. This is fairly down in sort of this valley there. Was there civil engineers involved as well?
Yeah, actually,
So-
after you approved it here, and after we received the building permit, the contractor started construction and he stopped it. It took us 1 year to work with soil engineer. Christopher knows it. I sent to him all the emails. So civil engineer, we hired civil because contractor told that there is no water exit out of property and that he's just not going to build it this way. So we hired a civil engineer, even after plans approved. We have a whole civil drawing to get pipe in the front of the house and to get it down the hill. And the civil was working with the soil engineer. So it was a long story. It took us 1 year. That was 1 year delay was because of the civil drawings we have. And we still have, because we didn't change front, we keep that retaining wall. So they were debating how far they go from front retaining wall, how it should be, put over there. Yeah, we have very good civil drawings because that was the problem in this house also.
Thank you.
No.
Okay, well, if that's it for the applicant, would any member of the public, we're going to open it up for public comment. Would any member of the public like to comment on this project? Anyone online?
There are no attendees with their hands raised.
Okay, in that case, we will close public comment and we will open it up to the ARC for comments. I'll lead off.
I'll just say, I think it's a good design, and having, seen the amount, with the topography, amount of slope, I think that what was done in the past of stopping and demolishing it and looking at, ways to handle the topography, dealing with structural and, soil engineers is the right way to go in general. I think this is a very good project. Move forward.
I'll just say that, I don't have the heart to, really suggest any tweaks on something that's already been approved. Even though there's some minor comments, I will say, I don't believe I was, even if I was on the committee, I don't recall being present for this. I would have had reservations about approving a 3rd-story view deck in a setback. That's a serious privacy concern for any neighbor. Definitely would have requested that that be adjusted, but again, I think that this thing has already been approved by a previous committee. I'm comfortable just giving it the go ahead.
It's a beautiful neighborhood. We walked it a lot during the pandemic. So good luck with that. I think it's an interesting area nestled in there. And I noticed a lot of the neighbors have lots of decks and things as well, and upper decks. And so who knows, maybe hopefully you all can wave at each other and that will be less of a privacy issue. I think most of them are pretty far away as well, and a lot of vegetation, but
That face the view.
yeah,
Mhm.
most of it's facing, most people aren't facing each other, things like that. And I did notice that I believe all of the side that does face a neighbor is very minimal windows and everything as well. And seeing it that there's no comments from neighbors, I assume this is all, everybody's ready to see it transition from its current state to lived in. So
All right, do we have a motion?
I move that, we approve, the architectural review permit ARP 23-0086 for 1054 Hallam Street with the conditions as outlined in the staff report.
second,
Okay, motion made by Ed Hunter and seconded by Paya Mostavar. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the motion carries. Project's approved.
That is appealable to the Planning Commission within the next 10 days with forms available online and in the planning office.
wait for our other member to join us.
Oh, he had to recuse?
Yeah.
You live up there? I hadn't been up that street before.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's sort of cool up there.
Yeah. Used to exit out that gate sometimes as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
All right, staff presentation for our second project.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Fernanda Roveri, Principal Planner for the City of Monterey. And we have before you a sign permit application, SI 240172, for one replacement vehicle-oriented freestanding sign at 1240 Monroe Avenue. Staff's recommendation is to adopt a resolution to approve the sign permit application as submitted. The site is 1240 Monroe Avenue. It has a general plan land use designation and zoning of visitor accommodation facility, and there's an existing hotel at the site. The proposal is for one replacement vehicle-oriented freestanding sign in the front yard, as shown by the red circle with a star. And the linear frontage of the building is 35 feet wide. This is the proposal. It's a cedar kiln dried wood sign, 18.75 square feet. And that's just the sign, the rectangle. It doesn't include the posts. The lettering would be routed lettering and also a routed border. The sign would be lighted by an existing like light that is on the ground right now, and I'll show you in the next photo. And then the sign would be held up by two sets of wood posts with marine rope wrapped around them. So on the left is the existing freestanding sign. And you can see the existing light on the ground. And the proposal is on the right. It would be in the same footprint, but the proposal is the sign is horizontal rather than vertical. In order to approve a sign permit, the ARC must make 3 findings. 1, that the proposal achieves the purposes and objectives of the sign ordinance. 2, that the sign is consistent with the guidelines, or the ARC determines that the proposal better achieves the sign ordinance objectives and purposes than strict application of the sign guidelines. And 3, that the proposal is consistent with any other adopted land use document, including the general plan, specific plans, area plans, and neighborhood plans. And staff found that the inconsistencies with the sign guidelines better achieve the sign ordinance purposes and objectives. The first inconsistency is that the additional, okay. Sorry, I skipped a slide. So the inconsistencies are that the sign is 18.75 square feet, but this exceeds the 17.5 square foot of sign area allowed. It exceeds it by 1.25 square feet. The sign guidelines say that for VIF properties that half, so if I go back and I show you the building frontage, so it says that you get half a square foot of sign area for every linear foot of building frontage. So that would equal to 17.5 square feet of sign area. And so that exceeds the proposal exceeds the maximum allowed by 1.25. The other inconsistency is that the lot width is 60 feet, but vehicle-oriented freestanding signs should only be installed on lots with a minimum lot width of 100 linear feet. That's also in the sign guidelines. And third, the sign would be installed on decorative posts, but the sign guidelines say that visible poles are discouraged. But staff believes that these inconsistencies are better achieved the sign ordinance because the additional 1.25 square feet of sign area is appropriate because this is the only sign that would be displayed on Monroe Avenue. And actually, this is the BAF property with the narrowest lot width on Monroe Avenue. And so allowing this property owner to have a greater sign area would promote more equality among hotel owners on Monroe Avenue. The narrow lot width also makes this type of sign more appropriate at this location because since the lot width is only 60 feet, it would be easy for a motorist to drive by and not catch the hotel. And so allowing that front yard location makes it easier for people to find the hotel. The front yard location is also consistent with other hotel properties on Monroe Avenue, such as the one that the ARC approved at the last meeting at 1300 Monroe. The third inconsistency was that posts are proposed rather than a full width solid base. But in this case, staff found that posts are more appropriate to convey the Fisherman's Cove theme because they look like pilings. And then there was thoughtful design from the applicant adding the decorative marine rope around the posts. And so with that, staff recommends that the ARC adopt a resolution approving the project as submitted. I'm available for questions and the applicant is online.
We have any questions of staff?
I guess first question, it's not that much larger than what the requirements are supposed to be. Was that just considered? Or is this just what came to staff and?
The applicant didn't consult with staff prior to applying. So, but I looked at it and I did an analysis of all signs on Monroe, and this is the lot with the narrowest width. And I just felt like holding them to the maximum recommended sign area would be not really necessary because that's the only sign that they have also on the front yard. So and I know that other hotels have more signs.
No, it's helpful, just that they didn't consult beforehand is helpful. Thank you.
And you just said maximum recommended. It's not-
Yes, all the
Oh.
sign guidelines are just guidelines, so they're not required to be adhered to. And when they are not adhered to is when they must be reviewed by the ARC.
And the square footage of the sign, is that calculated based on the front view of the posts in addition to the rectangle and not the negative space?
So the the sign area would be the rectangle that the lettering is on. So like the entire panel would be the sign area and not any space below it. And also the posts are not considered part of the sign area.
Okay, so it's just the rectangle itself is 18
Yeah,
and 0.75.
right.
Okay.
So I think it's down far enough down. The 100 feet is the recusal,
Well, 1,000
1,000
is.
linear.
Mhm.
Okay, maybe okay.
Could do some quick measuring if
Yeah, can you
necessary.
do 40 via Buena Vista.
40 Buena Vista.
Yeah. I think it's far enough down. Yeah, before I speak, I'll. Staff concluded their presentation.
Yes, and the applicant is online.
Okay. The applicant, do you have a presentation to make?
Yes, they are online with their hand raised. Are we done with staff questions?
We're moving into
Or-
the applicant presentation.
Okay. John, you should be able to speak.
Yes, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, well, I first want to thank Fernanda and everybody for reviewing this project. I think Fernanda did a very good job of presenting it. I think we can all agree that this sign looks a lot better than your typical Hotel 6 sign. The customer just kind of asked us to create a sign that we thought best fit their area. And from vehicles going, the speed limit on that road, it's hard for them to see these Fisherman Cove letters if we made the sign smaller. And I was unaware that VAF was half a square foot for the lot or for the building for the monument signs. Other than that, I mean, that's pretty much all I have. If you guys have any questions.
Yeah, it sounds like you're less aware of the what did you call them? Not conditions, but the
Guidelines.
Thank you. And is that true? You just weren't aware of the guidelines?
That I was aware of most guidelines, but that guideline of half of what the building is, but these lettering are legible from going down the road. If we made the sign any smaller, it would be harder to read as passing by.
Understood. And a related question, most of the signs, I think there's kind of a requirement to have the sign be sort of attached to the base, not using these posts and poles. Did you consider any designs that had that in it as well?
With the name Fisherman's Cove, they kind of wanted to go with, these ballards being close to the ocean and give it more the feel. That's kind of what the thought was. We kind of just went with what the client wanted. I definitely understand not showing just a circle metal pole that's not decorative, that doesn't look very good, but I think these poles are decorative and it necessarily is different than what your normal pole in the center of the sign would look like.
And it does. Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant? If not that, we'll close public appearance and open it up for committee comments.
I think
Can
we
you
still need
open
to
it
check
up?
for public
Oh,
comment.
check out,
Yeah.
are there any public comments on this? Sorry, guys.
There are none in the chambers and there are no attendees online with their hands raised.
And confirming that we did confirm the distance from committee member Polly's residence, and he is outside of the 1,000 feet radius.
All right, with that, we'll close public comment and open it up to committee comments.
I generally agree with things as have been discussed. It's an improvement to what's there. I do, whenever someone just kind of bypasses the guidelines without sort of an option for the guidelines, I kind of question it. There's adjacent signs, Bernard is correct, they're very large. And so I totally understand that, trying to somewhat compete with the large signs. And again, it's not that much bigger. I think that's something we can live with. The letters. I just wonder a little bit about kind of this sitting on posts. Something about that is a little different, and it's also just not following the guidelines. I agree with it being more fitting by far than the Motel 6 sign that's there to date. So I generally would like to try and find a way to improve this, but sometimes I like a discussion around why are we just bypassing guidelines because we could see a version that follows a little more closely the guidelines, but generally it is, I think, an improvement in the signage. It's not, it's not backlit, all of these things. It feels very fitting with the street.
Yeah, I guess I'll comment. I don't disagree with Payam. But I would also argue that that's sort of why these things come to us when there are. So that it doesn't become just a black and white situation where if someone presents a design that maybe isn't consistent with the guidelines. And I think that staff has made a intriguing argument in the report that this is sort of a unique situation with the hotel has a small street frontage and is sort of tucked in the back. So it's not, it's sort of, it's allowable sign area. They're getting punished because of their lot shape.
Yeah.
And the configuration of the building on the site. So I don't really have a problem with that. I don't know if there's a compelling argument for why we could approve the columns other than they're just sort of a neat design and they look better than a pedestal. I think I don't quite understand the regulation of why these signs need to sit on a bulkier pedestal. To me, it seems contradictory to sort of making them a little bit lighter. And I think when you even looking at the two pictures there with the Motel 6 sign next to the Fisherman's Cove sign, sort of like, well, why does that need to be on that big white box? So in general, I think it's sort of an elegant design. I'm really glad it's not backlit. I'm not crazy about the backlit signs showing up on the street for these hotels in such close proximity to a residential neighborhood. So I think it's actually a nice sign, and I don't see a problem with its inconsistencies with the guidelines.
Agreed. I think it's charming.
Yeah.
So
Any other comments? Does anyone care to make a motion?
I'll move that we approve the sign permit application SI-24-0172 for 1240 Moonross Avenue with conditions outlined by the staff.
second,
All those we have a motion from Ed Hunter and it was seconded by Kim Turgeon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, the motion carries. The project is approved. This approval is appealable within 10 days.
Forms available online and in the planning office.
Okay. And I believe, yeah.
Sit with us.
Yeah. So that that brings to close our agenda. Are there any staff reports?
We don't have any tentative items for the October 2nd ARC meeting yet. But we will let you know if we do, and 2 new ARP permits were approved since last reported. So this is Spencer sharing how many permits, how many architectural review permits and sign permits we process. Yeah, administratively.
Okay. A quick question for you. Historically, we've done the site visits right before the ARC meeting, right?
No.
We
No,
I
we
know,
used to
like
do
this-
them on the Monday afternoon prior to the, in the week of the meeting of the ARC.
Okay.
You're not
we-
crazy
we-
though. We did have one where we did do it. I think it was last year where we hosted it like 2 o'clock, I believe, at the site. And then
Okay.
we still had the meeting at 4 or something like
I
that.
feel like even before COVID, we were doing them.
Well, before COVID, we did them, and it was usually the Monday afternoon of the week that the meeting was had. So it would have been like day before yesterday,
Okay.
which I guess is when it was scheduled. I couldn't attend it, but that's generally from my experience before COVID on the committee of what we did.
Okay. Yeah, it's been so long since we actually
Yeah.
did them, but I feel like my entire time that we were always doing them before. And I think I came on like right at COVID or something like that. So just curious. I missed that. I saw site visit and I assumed it was right before the meeting. So I apologize, but I did get to see the flagging. All right. Well, if there's nothing else from staff, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.